I'll send an Outlook invite. How about Saturday? Saturday good for you guys?
Get the
We
whole,
do this weekend.
Get the whole staff up there.
I'm ready.
He's not ready.
I could be ready for Saturday.
He's not
Can't
ready.
be ready.
No, he's
We'll
not.
get over there.
Yeah.
We won't be able to work.
Brian has been on a job where I hired him to do drywall with me, and I wasn't ready for that either. Welcome to the Fine Home Building Podcast, our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics. It is aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. You are joined today by Justin, Brian, and Rob. That was an awkward way to introduce that.
You are joined.
Yeah. We are in your ears today. Welcome.
Here we are, in your ears.
Off to a good start here. So today we have questions about siding durability on a sloped lot, the pros and cons of insulating concrete forms, and options for a low slope roof. Before we do any of that stuff, give you our email address, fhbpodcast@taunton.com, if you want to send us questions, comments, concerns, certificates for gifts. We never used that coffee who said that to us? Troy with his evil layer up
What
there.
are we waiting for?
Troy sent us coffee. I can go for some coffee right now.
Another thing is we haven't heard from Troy in a long time.
He's working
Troy,
on his
send us a
house.
note. We need to know what you're working on over there. You haven't asked us a question in weeks now. I'm getting concerned that
Weeks.
I'm getting concerned that you may have learned everything you need to learn from us. I don't feel needed by Troy.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
They cycle out.
You can also
They cycle out.
You can also hop onto our website, finehomebuilding.com/podcast, where you can check out the awesome show notes that Mike Altiero puts together every week for the show. He takes some fun leeway while writing those, and usually has some interesting personality inserted into those posts. So it's worth a look. Man, I feel like we've been rotating through guests lately, or not guests, but we've been changing the group. We're back to the original three today.
I'm
The
back.
core.
Here
So
I am.
Rob was very hurt that he was not on the show last week.
Yeah, I was pretty pissed. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, in fact, he was.
I think Brian saw me outside the window of the studio here, just gazing.
I did.
You did. I was trying to distract. I was trying to disrupt the show.
Looking in.
Yeah. It's like, come on.
Let me in, guys.
Wrap
Let me
it up.
in.
Wrap it up.
And I have to say, it was a great show.
It was great. Matt's great.
I
so
heard-
I mean, you got competition.
I do have competition, but I heard that Brian was yelling last week.
He did yell
I got
last week.
fired up. I can't remember about what. So
He yelled at me this morning before we started the show too. What's wrong with you lately?
Yeah.
He's just passionate. He's
Yeah,
excited.
It's passion.
Is it passion or
No,
are you,
it's
are you
building
mad?
passion.
No, it's passion.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. if
Jeff
it's
will
building
fight you if
passion.
we
I don't
need
know what
something.
it is. I know he will.
If it's not looking good either. Jeff's a bruiser.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of anger in there.
Yeah.
We don't let him talk, so it's all building up. Project updates.
You've been working on some stuff.
Well, I'm getting ready. Well, first of all, my patio is pretty well.
Wait a second.
I'm always ready.
Yeah, I think people have have come to know that you're always getting ready for something.
Oh, there's always a project in the works and several that are queued up
Lots of overlap.
on deck.
Lots
as I
of
like to say.
lots of overlap at Justin Fink's house.
Always. Because the goal is not to finish the projects.
No, start him.
No. I don't mean that. I don't mean that. The goal is not to finish the house. The goal is to just always be working on things.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
like, aren't you done remodeling your house yet? Like, no.
Why would I be
And-
done?
Yeah, and I never will be. That's not where I'm. If I do finish, then it's time for a new house. No, I'm getting ready to start work on my workshop. I have a detached garage that I use as my workshop. It's mostly a wood shop, but also a lot of storage of carpentry tools and whatnot. And I'm going to go back out there and kind of make it more complementary to the style to which I have grown accustomed to working, to make it sound formal. My work habits have changed over the years, and as skills change and develop, and new technologies come out, and that all changes sometimes how your shop needs to be set up for it to be most efficient. If you guys ever listen to the Fine Woodworking podcast, Shop Talk Live, which is a really good show, they talk a lot about, people often write them questions like, well, I want to build a workbench. What should it look like? Or what kind of workbench do you guys think is best? Or I want to set up my shop. What do you think is the best way to do it? And their answer is always just do something really simple and then start working, because you then learn what is it, because your shop is not going to work for me. It's not good. And so what I'm learning is that it's this iterative thing, and I need to change some things. For example, I saw Brian wrote down on his paper, for example, colon. For example, Brian, I'm learning that. So I surrounded kind of the perimeter of the interior of my shop with base cabinets. I built cabinets with drawers. And for me, it was like, well, these drawers make so much sense. I'm going to do this because drawers are better storage than cabinet doors because you don't lose things in the back. You don't have to take a bunch of things out to get to the stuff in the back. And I felt like, yeah, that was me iterating on a whole bunch of cabinet doors. Nobody wants to do drawers because they're harder. Cabinet doors are easy. So I remodeled the remodel and put in drawers. And now I'm remodeling that remodel and going, I want a lot less base cabinets because all it really is serving, in addition to serving as drawer storage, which is nice, it serves as a huge horizontal surface area that A, collects everything and anything that I really don't need to collect, and B, it takes up 2 feet of the perimeter of my already pretty tight shop.
It cuts into the floors.
Yeah, and I just don't need that. So I'm going to try to transition to shallower drawers and more things that are kind of attached to the wall. Maybe it's just taller wall cabinets that are shallow. More storage underneath tables rather than extra work surfaces around the room that I don't ever use for working. They're really just for piling crap. But I also need to update the electrical, which we talked about recently. And so I've been digging into that. That's kind of the top of mind thing right now is the electrical. Because I have drywall up already, but no insulation in the walls. And so I'm going to blow in cellulose insulation dense packet, which I'll do myself. I've done it before on other parts of the house. And then I'm not going to open up the walls to run wiring. I'm going to run wiring through conduit. So metal conduit on the surface of the wall, which I've never done before. I mean, I've pulled wires through conduit. I've never run conduit. So I'm interested. You know me, I'm always interested in trying something new that I've never done before. I was like, well, how hard can it be? I started looking up, some past articles that we haven't really done much with that. We have kind of here and there mentioned it in books and things, but I found some other magazine articles from other magazines and other online websites, and it looks harder than I had imagined.
Will you be bending on that?
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's what makes it look kind of cool. Is like, well, not look, but it eliminates fittings. It allows you to go around things and snake a conduit up to put an outlet here, and then go back down to put one down below. But there's rules on how many conductors through the tubing, and then the tubing is metal, so it brings up this issue of, well, do I ground everything to the metal tubing, or do I run a ground wire through the tubing back to the panel so I feel extra safe? Then you get into the methods of just bending accurately. Like, I want it to go up here, and I want it to terminate at this height so that it fits where I need it to fit, but it has the outlet where I want it to. So, I mean, that means I need to start bending here, not here. And, yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of play around with it and screw it up. I'm also going to be running dust collection in the shop, which I've never done real dust collection. It's always like a cobbled together, remote dust collection here and there, as opposed to a centralized system.
Are you buying a brand new dust collector? Or
Yeah, I'm buying a very simple dust collector, and which I will add a dust deputy cyclone to, and then I'm just going to use ductwork and some kind of flexible tubing. Yeah.
It's going to be legit in there.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I decided I've got rigid foam on my ceiling, which people may have seen from past photos of things I've done in my shop. I'm not going to hang drywall over that. That was kind of a decision. It's like, well, I got bats in the ceiling. It's a hip roof. I got bats in the ceiling. Bats of insulation, not bats.
You might have some bats,
bats
too.
in my yard.
Both, yeah.
And then I put 2 inches of rigid foam inboard of those bats. The cutting and fitting on the hip roof is a pain in the butt. It's not perfectly flat because, rigid foam. I didn't bother to try and get the rigid foam perfectly flat.
You did that to bump up your R value into air seal?
Into air seal, yeah. And so I was like, well, I got to cover this rigid foam with drywall and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not going to, how am I going to fasten it? And then I got to flatten it. And it's going to be a whole week just eating into that.
Technically, are you supposed to?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do
a fire
instead
barrier?
of technical, yes, for fire barrier,
Okay.
Is
Instead of technical, I like that.
Instead of technical, I'm going to paint it so that it goes away visually. You know, I'm going to tidy it up, make sure it's well air sealed, and then I'm just going to
Trim back the canned spray foam.
My method is to always overfill all the joints that need to be filled, and then trim them off flush with. I like to use a what do they call those damn things? The trowel for adhesive with the notch trowel. Mm-hmm. But the triangular notched one. What is the freaking term for that?
What kind of paint are you going to use?
I don't know. You think I should get like a fire retardant paint?
Well, it would make you technically
What's that
compliant.
What's that going to cost me?
Intumescent paint?
Yeah. Look that shizzy up.
Oof.
Oh no.
Well,
sounds like a
3M
lot.
fire barrier, 5 gallon. You need a 5 gallon.
I don't think
bucket.
I need 5 gallon.
Well, it'll just give you a little heads up. I think it's. Come on. At Granger, it's $390. $390, 5 gallon bucket of paint.
What about like?
Can I make a quick take a step back? I'm going to make a case for drywall.
How far back? Oh, okay.
Good luck. Good luck making this case.
So, some of your foam is protruding beyond the rafters, and that's
all of it is.
All of it is.
It's
okay.
applied over. It's on the interior face of the rafters.
Oh, runs along. So
I'd have to screw through. I either have to put up furring strips.
Yeah.
With a lot of fasteners.
Yeah.
Or I need to screw through the foam and into framing to hang the drywall, and then tape all of it, and then sand all of it, and then paint it anyway.
Yeah. So.
Project, yeah, do that.
But I'm never going to use that. It's really just overhead space.
Yep.
I'm never going to touch it. I'm never going to have any interaction with it whatsoever for shelving.
Yep.
Or anything.
But drywall's cheap.
Yes.
And you spend a lot of time in the shop.
I do.
And now's your chance while you have stuff moved out of the way.
Why are you always adding work for me?
Because I think you're taking a shortcut. I'd like to see you do it.
Oh,
I'd like to see you do it.
I know you would like to see me do it.
Yeah, I'd like to see you do it.
Calling you out in public too. That's bold, Brian. Bold, Brian.
What's the guy's name who you had come clean up the yard?
Randy.
Oh, Randy. Have Randy do this.
Either have Randy do it or hire him for the day to work with. You're getting the sheets up there.
Well, I have a lift.
Randy.
Rob's got a lift. I can borrow that.
I've got Andy's lift. Let's be clear.
Well, yeah, we're passing it around.
We're passing it around.
It's not Andy's lift. Patrick bought it. Yeah.
It's actually Patrick's lift that I got from Andy.
Yeah.
That I'll be using soon. I'll give it to Justin.
Harbor Freight.
Yes.
Yeah. Knock it out. You'll be glad you did. You'll thank me.
I probably will not.
Hopefully you'll thank me live on the show.
Yeah.
That would be fitting.
That'd be ideal.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'll probably do it though.
It is going to be the time to do it.
It's the
right?
time. The time
not
is now.
that bad. Right?
It's pretty bad.
You don't have to bring it to like a level 5 finish or anything. Just
No.
get it up there.
Yeah.
I would probably honestly do.
I love Brian's enthusiasm. Yes, do that. Get it up there.
Yeah.
So you would put up 1x3s over the foam,
Yeah.
which I'm going to then have to fasten with something like Timberlock screws,
Dude. Yeah.
which is
You don't wanna-
expensivo.
You don't want to just screw through the foam.
If you use
What do you have?
Timberlocks.
2 inches on top of the.
Right, I would have
Rafters?
to screw. Yeah, I would have to use like 2.5-inch drywall screws, and then the drywall would be holding up the foam, which is not really what you want.
Yeah, so
Yeah, put up some fur
Put some
strips.
strapping. Yeah. Have Randy put up the strapping.
Randy doesn't do this. Randy's a yard cleanup guy. For people who don't know, I got a Randy now. I got a guy doing work for me at my house for ultra cheap. Everybody should have a Randy.
I say you just have him come over for the day and work with you on it because it'll.
I don't know if I want to work with a Randy for the day.
No offense, Randy, if you're a listener. Justin appreciates all your hard work.
Yes,
And who you
I
are as a
totally
person.
do. I totally do. I just, you know me. I don't, I like working solo.
He likes
Yeah.
lifting drywall solo.
Well, it's sheets of. It's a lift. All right, I'm not talking about it anymore.
You have a small shop too. How much drywall do you think you need up there?
What time do you guys want to come over? That's what I'm hearing here. If you wanted, I'll send an Outlook invite. How about Saturday? Saturday good for you guys? We can do it this weekend.
Get
Are
the
you
whole
ready to
staff
go?
up there.
I'm ready.
He's not ready.
I could be ready for Saturday.
He's not
Can't
ready.
be ready.
No, he's
We'll
not.
get over there.
Yeah.
We won't be able to work.
Brian has been on a job where I hired him to do drywall with me, and I wasn't ready for that either. Like, where's the blocking? I don't have any of the blocking yet. Okay. Now we got a question. Paul writes, we built a house on a sloped lot in coastal Maine, and in order to fit the sloped lot, the foundation steps down to become a walkout. I'm curious how you guys would detail this vulnerable area of siding so that it looks finished, doesn't impede water flow, and won't lead to rot. So I should, for people who are not looking at the video stream of this podcast, what we essentially have here is imagine a house that's cut into a hill, and so the foundation, the poured concrete foundation is stepped down the hill, and then it becomes a walkout. But where it's a walkout, there's siding. Mm-hmm. So what you have here is the potential for water to run down the hill and hit this joint where the foundation leads to the siding, which is kind of a tricky. So it's a vertical joint. It's not, most of the time, all we have to really worry about is where the siding meets the top of a foundation. In this case, the siding is meeting the side of a foundation. So it's like, it becomes an interesting discussion. I thought it was a really good question. He goes on to say, what we've done to date is caulk the joint between the concrete and the surface layers, which include copper flashing and Vantex sheathing, house wrap, and a rain screen mesh, which are then all covered with cedar shingles. Paul's considering running a trim board along the edge and leaving the horizontal edges open to allow the rain screen behind the shakes to breathe. And he's also used boral for the exterior trim and would presumably use the same here. Love the podcast. It's not clear to me whether Paul's a homeowner or the builder here. Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on this? This is a tricky one. What he essentially did was bridge the gap between the siding and the concrete with a whole crap load of caulk, which is not the solution.
He backcocked it.
Anytime that you're, just as a general rule of thumb, it's a golden rule of our podcast here, anytime that you are pulling out the tube of caulk to waterproof something, you should ask yourself if you're going down the right path. I mean, is there as in terms of a surface layer of waterproofing, like if you're on a roof and you go, and this little one tricky transition, I'm going to use blackjack for that. Or if you're around a window, well, this will be fine. I'm going to add a bead of caulk around it. Same with the foundation. Well, this is a place where water can get in, so I'll caulk the siding to the concrete. The problem is that the caulk is not a long-term solution.
It's usually part of a system that includes some sort of mechanical
right,
flashing
or
as
at least
well,
a protective layer to
and
protect
protective
from UV
layers.
and stuff.
Yeah,
and most people don't understand that caulk is not designed to work in that application. It's meant to bridge between two pieces of material with either a backer rod between it that it doesn't stick to, or just span the gap. It's not meant to touch. It's not meant to fill like a U-shaped trench.
Yeah, it's not meant to be adhered to three sides of a joint.
Exactly.
right.
Only two.
Right.
Yeah.
Because because it needs to move, and if it's adhered to three, it can't stretch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With those two sides,
start to crack and kind of pull apart. And
so,
I just want to point out that and if people go to the website and see these photos, that I love this question from a design point of view too.
Yeah.
Because you see this a lot of houses that are on slopes, and where the siding has to kind of step down the slope.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really interesting question, and I can't say that I've ever seen it done in ways that are really great, and how to deal with the siding as you come down a slope, and you end up having like these large maybe at the top of the hill, the siding, and maybe if you have some kind of a skirt board or water table, it's on grade, but then you have this expanse of concrete foundation that begins to open up, and then you have this step down. Now you've covered more of the foundation, and then a little more, and another step down.
I mean, I kind of feel so from a design point of view, and do we have the photos? Okay. Do you recall off the top, because you don't have photos in front of you? Is it best to avoid the stepping? You know what I mean? At all costs.
No,
because I mean, I'm looking at the photo now. I will, and if you guys are looking at it, I mean, if you ran the kind of this plane straight, so the upper edge of like the grade, let's say, before the step, just run that foundation flattened, detail it conventionally.
Yeah, but eventually he's going to have a step down.
Because you think it's wood framing. You think the foundation steps
that's
down?
a walkout.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying have concrete all the way?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean that it's wood frame. There are walkouts in concrete walls.
Sure, but you then have to frame window openings in concrete. It seems like, so. Are you suggesting then do it that way? Don't do this method.
I'm saying like, of course it's too late, so it's a little bit of irrelevant. But when Brian brings up the design component, is to avoid this kind of detail,
stepping the siding
down like that. I mean, because what did I say? Like joking around is like, yeah, you're gonna have a larger expanse of exposed foundation, which doesn't look great, but then you kind of ground that house in your landscaping plan. You know, and you avoid these little compromises and these little details that you then have to go back and waterproof in detail.
Well, let me ask you this: if the grade is pulled back from the siding, or so there's adequate distance between the hill and the wood, then is this even still an issue? Look at the spacing on those shakes.
Well, what you said, and I don't know if this was in his question or if you were making this part up, but the idea of water running down the hill and being a problem isn't a problem. No. Just keep the grade low enough away from the side.
Yeah,
unless you're having massive flood water coming down there, then you got another problem.
Yeah, if you have a river coming down, you're in trouble.
There's other ways to manage that.
Yeah,
right. You need curtain drain or diverters or slip and slide.
Yeah.
That would be how I would fix this: is just make sure that the water is never going to be coming in contact with that.
But so he's talking about
big
these
old trench of gravel, something so that even if water is coming near the house, it's immediately it's immediately diverted off some other way, or dropped through a bed of gravel so it can't touch the house.
So
and you can make it decorative; it can look good.
So to detail these vertical joints, essentially,
right? So you still, even if you take care of the water, you still are in this situation looking at the side of framing, especially when you add rain screen, because now you've created a gap.
Yeah,
and it's really tricky on shingle siding.
Yeah,
often when people have no trim boards. So,
and so what he's got here, for people who are not looking at it, he's got I think it's actually a really beautiful kind of approach where he's got white trim boards on it. You think it's almost whitewashed kind of cedar?
Yeah, it looks like the oil dipped, like the Cabot's bleached shingle kind of a thing.
And then he's got black windows. So it's a really beautiful look. But I don't know if I would replicate those white trim boards at each of these vertical kind of joints along the gable end. Well,
he does have corner boards, though.
Right, that are painted white.
Right.
I'm just wondering, can he do something with a similar cedar material, something that will weather with the shingles and essentially disappear?
So maybe get some of that same bleaching oil or whatever it is. And I gotcha. That's interesting.
Rip a cedar trim piece.
Yeah.
And you're right, it would.
And scale it appropriately so it just kind of disappears and it doesn't pop like your other trim elements.
Yeah.
How would that tie into the courses of shingling right above the vertical? It would have to kind of tuck behind them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What you're talking about is a corner board that stops, or a vertical board that terminates.
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought this question up knowing that, first of all, this is one of those things where I have never thought about this because I've never built a house or worked on a situation that had. I've worked on houses and installed windows in basements that were walkout more than one time, but I've never thought about how they detail this.
Yeah.
And then add in the complication of the rain screen pushing the siding out that much farther, and it really starts to become obvious. And then it's a really good question. I don't know. I'm sort of working out ideas out loud here.
So your concern is if we use something of similar material, like a cedar,
I think that's a great idea to start with. A great starting point for discussion.
And then we just want to be sure that it tucks up beneath that course of siding.
Yeah,
it should. Right?
I almost want what a miter return does for a windowsill. I want the siding to just return against the foundation. Maybe that's the solution.
Ideally,
maybe that
great.
becomes an outside corner, like a woven shingle corner that runs back the 2 inches and hits the wall, hits the concrete.
Yep, you could do that
because it's a pretty hefty gap.
It is a pretty hefty gap.
Other thing you could do there maybe is make sure that that foundation is. I mean, okay, so we can let's eliminate the fact that you could do this differently to avoid it, because maybe this is a remodel situation and whatever. You're not gonna. It is what it is.
You're kind of stumping us rather.
Yeah,
this is kind of like one of those.
It's hard to describe too. You really gotta see the picture.
Tricks of carpentry is where you get into these jams a little bit and you've got to get creative and you become a designer.
Well, that's why what I was trying to explain is that I've never thought of this because I've never had the problem. And I feel like this is one of those things nobody thinks about until they hit the problem and go, oh, crap, how am I going to do this?
Yep.
If we can assume that there's no, for a moment, if we can assume that there's no water issues, that what our solution is here is aesthetic.
Well, so
we're not trying to.
I think we can confidently solve the water problem by either diverting it, making sure you have good drainage, making sure you have good runoff control. There's no gutters dumping around here.
Yeah.
So and you got to pull. I mean, there's too much grass and weeds growing close to the house. That's got to be pulled back, and it's got to be it's got to be protected from that stuff. So do we feel confident that that is then we've I mean, I can't protect against, I guess, snow drifts. That could be an issue here. You know, snowfall is going to build up. It's going to build up. Mm-hmm. But I guess what I'm saying is that let's assume we can. Yeah. We have strategies to deal with that.
Yeah.
Now how do we make it look good?
And I'm gonna. So let's say water's taken care of, and this is the situation in that they don't want to do too much work here. They just want to cover this gap. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty simple. I think it,
caulk it.
color matched caulk. No, I think what Rob said, you get a piece of cedar, you use the same bleaching oil or whatever they used on it, you sneak it in there as tight as you can, covering that gap, and it disappears.
Mm-hmm. So
this isn't like a big obvious place on the house.
So, but does it tuck in?
It does.
What I think you need to be careful of here is creating a water problem where there isn't one now. So you're trying to solve for aesthetics, and you may lead to rot accidentally.
It's going to tuck. I mean, it's going to tuck up underneath that course, and if so, you could probably slip a piece of flashing up in there too, like a little
kick
bit,
out?
like almost a kick out, a little cap. If it planed out like that, I'm not so sure.
Another way
that
you could do it is you could wrap that little. He said he uses copper flashing elsewhere. You could extend a piece of copper flashing across that wall a little bit and have it just L back and cover the exposed edge of the sheathing. He had mentioned, did I have this in here, that we're considering running a trim board along the edge and leaving the horizontal edges open to allow the rain screen behind it to breathe. I would not do that. I would not leave the vertical part of the rain screen open, the vertical edge of it. He's talking about maybe leaving that.
I thought he was talking about leaving the horizontal. So what he doesn't want, he doesn't want to put like a water table.
Edges open.
He doesn't want to do that. Yeah, so he's on the right track.
I read horizontal and thought vertical.
I like what you just said though. You could just make a little channel.
Yeah,
and just kind of. I bet you could even just sneak it in
Slide
there.
It on in.
Do it with copper. Do it with black or brown.
You could seal that piece to the foundation with some
yeah.
Some goopy stuff.
That took a while to get there.
Well, listen, we never not encountered that one. Zephin wrote us an email. Sorry.
I want to point out that this is I could just imagine myself in this exact same situation.
That's why
I've thought of everything, done everything right, and then I'm like, but I didn't think of this.
Yeah, that's why I feel so much like we needed to talk about it because I can identify with it so much.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it.
Yeah, 99% there.
Yeah. Yep. Rob is completely sucked into the fact that he has white trim and black window sash. He can't get over it. He's like zooming in and out of the photo.
It really. I want to see more of this house because I think they're doing it right for sure.
Where did he say he is? Coastal Maine.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Okay.
Zephin writes to us, I found your podcast back in April after getting hooked on the FHB magazine. My wife and I have owned 4 homes, and we've never built one. After several years of looking for property, we found the right lot. It's in Ariel, Washington, about an hour north of the Portland, Vancouver area. When we started design last winter, I decided to go with ICFs. I did lots of research and decided it was right for our project. ICFs are insulating concrete forms, for those who don't know. I've spent 11 years in the military, and there's something reassuring about concrete structures to me. We're currently in the final reviews with the county to pull the permit and get going. As I listened to all the episodes of your show, I kept thinking I would hear something about ICFs, but the most I ever caught was a brief sentence, brief reference, and a quick explanation for the listeners that may not know what it is. I was wondering if you guys wouldn't mind sharing any experience you have with ICF builds. If there isn't any, then a quick discussion of your personal thoughts on this building method.
So he's talking about not using ICFs just for the foundation, but the complete.
He's going to build the
He's going to build a whole house out of
all the
ICFs.
walls. Yeah, not the roof.
Not the roof.
I don't think anybody's cracked that code yet. Concrete roof.
A true bunker.
A great article if they do. I see the bracing.
Building a parking garage.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
ICFs, I like them. Next question.
Next question. So Ted writes in,
Well,
I have a question about fixing.
ICFs, insulating concrete forms, people who don't know them, typically the way you pour a foundation is you hire, they pour a footing, which is a big horizontal run of concrete, and then they put up form boards that are temporary, fill them with concrete. After the concrete is set up, the concrete crew comes back and removes the form boards. And now you have a concrete foundation that's standing on its own. Insulating concrete forms combine the form with the finish. So you get an insulated wall that also acts as the form to pour it. So it's less time spent setting up and then ripping down forms. It also puts the actual installation of the ICFs in the wheelhouse of an everyday builder, because they're essentially giant foam Lego blocks that you stack together and then
you cut with hand tools.
Cut with hand tools. Yep. Form boards are very expensive. Nobody's going to buy those for a one-off deal. I think, from what I understand, and maybe this has changed, is that it's pretty much a wash in terms of cost to to have it either way. Once you factor in all the labor and the fact that you might need a pump truck for the ICFs, just to make it easier to kind of get the tube all the way down to the bottom and then back it out.
And I think it needs to be an apples to apples comparison. So the beauty of the ICFs is that you're getting those insulating layers, as part of the formwork itself. So if you wanted an R30 foundation, conventionally you would pour that wall, then you would have to come back in and add that insulation. So there's labor costs and then there's material costs where that's all kind of built into the formwork of the ICF. So it is a rough wash.
It won't be an exact financial wash, but then keep in mind that then when you put drywall down in your basement, if you're going to do that, you already have these plastic channels in the ICF wall that makes it easy to fasten your finish right to it. One of the downsides to ICF is that you have to finish the outside of it.
Yeah, you can't leave that foam exposed, so you need to come up with some kind of treatment, whether it's parge coat or some people use metal flashing.
Yeah.
I guess you could start to go down the cultured stone route if you wanted to look more traditional.
Yeah.
So I think they're cool for foundation options. I know that they are built, complete homes are built out of ICFs. I wonder, does it complicate the rest of the build, when it comes to either interior finishes? Do you have to then build a partition wall on the interior to attach your drywall, depending upon what you want your interior finish surface to be?
What do you mean? Depending on what you want your interior surface finish to be.
So, so if you build a complete wall, you're going to have that insulating layer.
Right. So you put drywall right over it.
You put drywall right over it.
Yeah.
Where you cut your electrical into the foam?
You cut your electrical into the foam?
Yeah, you can do it that way.
So it sounds like it's getting complicated.
It does change some things. Yeah.
Of course, you'll do a rain screen on the outside, so you can hang your siding and do all of that in your trim.
When you have to figure out how to frame your floors.
I wonder if you'd still need a rain screen.
I guess you throw a ledger. Bolt the ledger to the.
Don't some of these blocks actually have vertical channels in them? Like they're almost almost grooved enough. I wonder if it would be enough that if you installed siding right on it,
I know. So there's
it is your drainage.
There's one company, I think they're called Insofast. I think that they actually have an ICF form that has a built-in plastic batten almost, so that you could fasten siding right to the form itself. You don't need to go back and add strapping.
I don't know that you have to add strapping for any of them. Do you? I don't know. I
don't think that the ones...
We should have started with a disclaimer.
Yeah.
I've never actually seen a whole house built with ICFs. I've been on jobs where they've been used as the foundation. We've done some, like the Pro Home last year was sort of a walkout where they had to cover some big exposed portions of it. Andy Engel's house, one of our editors, is an ICF foundation. He did it himself. So I know kind of peripherally, I can extrapolate to some of the challenges of doing a whole house, but I don't know about the siding details.
I mean, what are the ultimate benefits? The other thing too is that I know that you could get, for instance, in the Pro Home last year, because they didn't use it this year, I think the highest rated block that we were able to get was like an R32.
It's around R30.
And I just, I guess it depends on kind of like what performance metric you're going for. Like for instance, this year's Pro Home build is in mid Vermont, and they're shooting for R45. And so, is that wall assembly going to get you what you need? Depending upon your client. Where's this guy? He's in Michigan, right?
No, he's
okay.
Pacific
Northwest.
Oh, okay, so maybe a little bit more mild
for people
climate,
that are
maybe.
in seismic areas. It's a nice benefit because your house is super protected. You don't need to go through all the hoops that you have to do when doing a wood frame, where you have to put in 1,000,001 connectors and hold downs and straps, and you can just have it engineered and essentially run your rebar through it, and you're closer to being good to go.
So the Anvik blocks that we used last year, they also have an integrated, they call it a 1.5-inch web flange that's embedded into the foam.
Right.
That provides 198 pounds of pull-out strength.
Right. I assume that most people are probably attaching their siding right to this.
Okay.
Not going to work for everything. I mean, maybe in Pacific Northwest you want cedar shingles. And good luck with that. You're going to have to put something up to attach it to. But I wonder if there's enough groovage on the outside face of the block that you could then attach siding right to it and have a little bit of drainability behind it without having to add anything for ventilation and drainage.
So maybe we could just like really quickly run through the considerations and concerns. So he talked about, and I think, of course he's used to being surrounded by, concrete bunkers in the military. So is this a stronger wall than a conventional wall?
Are you planning on being attacked? Stronger in what way?
I don't know.
I would say yes.
Mean, that's a consideration and a concern, apparently. Like, an ICF wall is more durable, it's more impenetrable than a conventionally built wall.
I assume the sound transmission rating is great.
Okay,
I assume that's an awesome benefit. It's poured and insulated in one step.
Okay, so speed of construction, I think you might, ICFs might win out a little bit.
You're probably going to be sacrificing some design flexibility in terms of the outside of the house. Like, is it a lot like a SIPS house where you're essentially building a very simple structure? Like what are you going to do if you want to have a bump out for a bay window, or how are you limited in that? That's an area that I would look into.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to make sure I have a crew that really knows their stuff with installing these, because there's a learning curve for the ICFs.
And trades that know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sub-trades that know how to come in and work with them. Remodeling is going to be
a nightmare.
So it wouldn't be the kind of thing where you'd think,
let's add a family room later.
Let's add an addition on the back of the house later.
The performance, probably pretty dang good.
It's probably pretty good. It
not much thermal bridging going on.
You can still, if you chose to, if you wanted more R value, you can still add.
Sure.
Still have foam to the outside.
Yep.
Or the inside.
I
don't know why you're adding the inside, but what else do we need to consider? I mean, I'm sure it's going to cost more, I would think. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad way to go.
No.
I think it's just going to be an unconventional way to go. And so you just might run into problems like maybe with some of your subs who aren't totally dialed into how to work on this kind of house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's different things with, like, how does the interior structure work then too? Like, how do the carrying beams sit in pockets? Are there special hardware you need to know about? Is he said he's done his homework on it, so I mean, I'm sure he knows, and I'm sure there's great support for that kind of stuff. But the builder better know his stuff too.
I guess I'm a little stumped on what the real advantages would be.
That's what I'm trying to scratch at. Like, is it?
I mean, we're coming up with plenty of things, concerns or potential cons, but what are the real advantages? I mean, he said that he finds it reassuring that his home would be built out of concrete, but I don't know what that means because I don't know what he sees as the problems with the way we're building homes more conventionally.
That's why I brought up like the strength thing or the durability factor.
I mean, in most places, not all, but most places, the building codes prescribe a house, whether if you're in a high wind zone, they're prescribing a house that can stand up to those winds, where you have blocking behind your sheathing so things can't penetrate. And when you mentioned the seismic areas, when you're in a seismic area, most areas have codes so that you have tie downs where you need them and shear strength where you need it. And so I'm curious about what he's reassured about.
I don't think
mortars.
Building to, I mean, we know that some houses do fall down or get blown down, but if you're building to modern codes, houses are strong enough. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be a problem that needs to be solved.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I also don't think it's like, it's probably not seen all the time for some good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's probably not just, well, people are slow to change. It's probably, there's some drawbacks too that people aren't as inclined to deal with. Some flexibility is lost, some cost, some logistics, finding people who understand it, expense of the materials themselves. But do it up. I think it'd be cool. I want to see it.
That was a borderline go nuts call right there.
Go nuts. Do it up. Ted writes to us, I have a question about fixing a problem with a shallowly sloped roof. A few years ago, I designed a carport for my girlfriend. Due to the nature of the site and the adjacent building, it ended up with a simple single-pitch shed roof with a slope of about 2 and 12. Since I'm an amateur, I specified felt and asphalt shingles, and neither the city permitting department or the contractor called our attention to the fact that shingles on a roof this shallow are a bad idea. It actually hasn't held up too badly, except that the overhanging mature trees drop a lot of sticks and debris on the roof, which have dammed up enough water that several parts of the OSB deck are now rotting through. We want to fix the decking, obviously, and then put on a membrane roof that will hold up in southeastern Michigan climate. Cheap would be nice, and appearance is of no concern because the roof cannot be seen from the ground. Can you recommend a material that would be appropriate for a very simple flat roof? As shown in the attached photos, which you can find on findhomebuilding.com/podcast. Okay, so we got a low slope roof. Shouldn't have been shingled with shingles.
What's the minimum?
I think it's
3 and 12?
It's 2 or 3 and 12. I can't remember. I think it's 3, but you have to do some different things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seal them differently or something.
Okay.
I think you can't rely on the ceiling strips, right? You have to use
actual caulk.
Sealant, and you might have to.
Well, not
you
caulk,
might have
but
to do like high wind nailing patterns.
Okay.
I think we might be conflating two things, but either way,
I don't know what conflating means, so we'll just go on. It's a big word, Justin.
So you just I mean, again, perfect question. You just did this on your low slope roof out back on your porch.
We just did an article on this too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I did write back to him, to Ted, and say, we just did an article on this, so you can check it out. And we'll throw that link up online. Options for a low slope roof or guide to low slope roofing.
So he's tearing these shingles off.
It can be as complicated as you want, really. I mean, you can do an EPDM roof with all the details that go along with it. The simplest solution is, pretty much roll roofing. Mm-hmm. Peel and stick.
Yeah.
Peel and stick granular surfaced asphalt roofing. And so it comes in I think it's 42-inch wide rolls or something like that.
Does that need to go over a certain substrate?
So there's several different ways you can do it.
Of course there.
Of course.
Like everything.
You can take that peel and stick membrane and stick it right down to the roof deck and be done.
So that's the granular surface, just that. Okay.
Yeah. And I forget the acronym for what it is.
Okay.
I think it's, I'm not even going to try and guess because there's mod bit and SBS and cold fusion and whatever. I don't think cold fusion might not be one of them. Cold press coffee. So you can stick that right down to the roof deck. You can put down a peel and stick underlayment underneath it first.
Like conventional peel and stick? Like
no, it's like an A and B system, like a 1 and 2 part system. They make their own kind of a thing. Super sticky. Or you can also put down a slip sheet, which is a nailable membrane that you then stick these other layers to. So that way, if you ever want to change the roofing, it's easier to pull it up, which is highly advisable by the people that I've talked to that have done this. In my mind, it feels a little weird. Like, why would I nail down a membrane and then stick a membrane to the thing I nailed down? Because at the end of the day, why don't I just put down a membrane that doesn't stick to anything then? Because I don't get it. I don't get like nailing a membrane on and then sticking something to it. But for whatever reason, that's what the industry does. It feels like putting on house wrap and then putting Vicor over it. You know, like why don't I just put that? Okay. But yeah, it's not a super complicated job. The products are easy to find. That's what I would do. It's going to be way cheaper than EPDM membrane. Don't do any roof slop system.
Like torch down stuff.
Don't do that. Don't do anything torch down. You don't have the equipment for it, and it's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. The miracles of modern materials. Go and get the stuff that sticks down and has a granular surface. It's got a decent warranty. It's not the most attractive option, but you're not going to see it anyway, and it installs super fast, and you'll be done with it, and case closed. I would put down some better... What did he say? He's got OSB.
Sheeting.
Yeah.
Did he say what he's going to use?
Fix.
To replace that?
Yeah.
I don't think he...
I like the redundancy of using something like zip system on the roof and then taping the joints and then putting whatever your system is over it, because, if something gets through, that at least the zip system is enough that it's sort of dried in and it's protected. The OSB is protected by that surface layer of proprietary film, whatever they put on there, Different thoughts from you guys?
No, it sounds like...
I suppose you could peel and stick it completely and then put regular shingles down. And although the manufacturer is not going to warranty it, it would probably be fine. It's a first of all, it's a carport. So it's pretty... This is a lot like my porch in the fact that if it leaks, your car is going to get wet. It's not...
He's got a nice car parked under there.
Cars are meant to be outside.
But yeah,
they're weather tight. Just so we got that clear, all you people with garages. Okay.
So he asked us how to make this watertight, and we're saying it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Let that sheeting rot out.
Our answer is don't even do anything.
Yeah. Straw roof.
Put an internal gutter system.
It's fine the way it is.
So as the roof is leaking, just collect that water and drain it out.
Yeah, make it a deck. No, I'm serious. Put down the roll roofing stuff. That's the way you want to go.
Yeah, it's easy. Easy solution.
I like it.
Right,
Brian likes it.
That's gonna.
Brian endorses it.
That's gonna wrap us up for this week. I'm gonna take off and go hang some drywall in my garage because Brian yelled at me, told me I had to. If you have questions or topics you'd like to hear, or you just want to tell me that that's dumb, or tell Brian that he's right, shoot us an email, fhbpodcast@taunton.com. If you like the show, help us out with a review on iTunes. Don't forget, we're still trying to get into the top 20 by the end of the year.
Are we close?
Oh, wait, where are we? I thought you said you were gonna give us an update.
We're right on track. I think we bumped up by about 10 since.
Not bad.
So here's the problem, though. We're
What's the problem, Justin?
Well, we record slightly in advance, so I don't have real-time statistics. I'm just starting to see the payoff from us, making that announcement.
All right.
It's not an immediate thing.
Okay. Patience, Brian.
Patience.
We got time.
Do we?
January's
right around the corner.
Months away.
Months.
Yeah,
we don't record that far in advance.
No.
Until next time, this is Justin for Brian and Rob saying happy building.